Where are my moms that were athletes growing up? Do you still feel like an athlete or train like an athlete like I think I do? Do you have kids now that you're considering what sports are they going to play? Am I going to make them play sports? Or are you also a mom who grew up to be a coach because you were just that passionate about the sport that you grew up playing? We interview Salem's sister today, Meredith, who is a state champion coach of volleyball of our hometown school. And we are so excited to dive deep into what it's like being an athlete still back then and how do we parent our kids as athletes. I hope you enjoy today's show. Let's dive in. Good morning, Meredith and Salem.
Good morning.
Hello.
I'm excited to have this interview today with none other than Salem's sister,
Yeah.
Meredith. We are talking today really the impact of sports in not just our lives, but how we're hoping to implement them into our children's lives as well over time, and basically what we've learned and hopefully can continue to teach them. Pretty excited about it.
Yeah, absolutely. We can definitely say that, for us, sports has played a huge impact on our lives. I mean, in varying degrees. You guys obviously have way more sports background than I do, but even just playing high school sports, it definitely had a huge impact on my life and in a positive way.
Yeah, and I think it's fun to note that we all played together in
Mhm.
some capacity. Like we played volleyball together all through high school. Meredith, I can't remember if I actually played against you in college or not. I really
Um,
don't
I'm
remember.
not. I'm not sure. I know that at one point we played Belmont Abbey, but I'm not sure that it was
I don't know
whenever
if it
I
was
was
while I was
there.
there or
I'm not
not.
sure either. Mm-mm.
Um, we played softball together, so we've kind of hit on all the big sports that we played and shared some experiences through life. And what's really cool is Meredith has this very unique perspective that not everybody gets to have as an athlete, from being a collegiate athlete to now she's actually coaching the school that we came from, which is known for volleyball and known for, winning state championships, but she's also now a mom. And I'm sure she's going to expect or want her child to play sports as she gets older. She's little. And, obviously I have older kids and both of my girls are athletes in different ways than I ever was. And so I think it's pretty exciting to kind of talk about our experience and share that. And I'm sure other people can relate kind of like where they are in their season of life. So let's get into it.
Okay,
Meredith,
let's go.
let's go. I know I'm like almost hyped for this, like in a way of
I
playing a game, you know?
feel like we need to break it down, like one, two, three, team.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, let's kind of talk, Meredith. I mean, why did you decide to become a coach? Let's just go there and then we'll kind of go a little bit backwards into like what sports did for us growing up.
I think in high school, I just feel like I was like, you know what? I want to do something that I'm truly going to enjoy. I really liked, honestly, PE class and doing anything athletic. So I was like, okay, well, I can go and be a PE teacher and then hopefully be able to coach one day. And I just started in college when I was at Lenore Ryan. I started coaching for some club teams and I was like, you know what? This is a lot of fun. I did it in my spare time and then I got my degree. And I didn't get to, one of my life goals was to always go back to Freddie Ford and like, hopefully my goal was to win a state championship. Like that was like just so cool because I was lucky enough to be a part of it when I was there. And I was like, you know what, this is going to be my like outlook on life. I want to get back to Freddie Ford. I want to coach their team. And I didn't go to Ford at first. I was at a different high school. I was at South Caldwell High School for 3 years, and I helped honestly with their softball program. And it was a completely different aspect, being able to learn from a different coach. But he is now a state champion softball coach at South Caldwell, so it was really cool. But and then the opportunity arose, and I had to take it, and I jumped in and had a great first group. And it's just wild what has happened in the past. It's my 6th year there, and we've been lucky enough to get 2 state championships in that range. But it just happened a lot quicker than I thought. And it's just very humbling that, you know, this is what I get to do every day. Get to coach these young girls. And I've built a lot of great relationships with them throughout the years. So it's just really cool being on that aspect, learning from them. And then I have a 2-year-old now at home. So I'm like, you better play volleyball because I don't know what else to do. But it's funny because me and Nick, my husband, have had this conversation of like, do you want to coach her? And I don't think I do, but then once I get to that point, I'll be like, nope, you're playing for me, no one else. But we'll see what happens. So yeah. I know that was like a long story of where I'm at. But Freddie Ford holds a special place. I mean, you know as well, Megan, and Salem, you got to play for the program as well. It's different. It's home. It's a different culture there, and that's something I hope to have brought to them as well, because we played for a really great coach there. And it's really cool being back, just being at your home school and getting to coach a sport that you love to do.
Yeah, it's really funny because I can't wait to hear more about this perspective, because we Salem, you and I have been on the side of like these coaches that have impacted our lives like significantly, like even our softball coach, you know, Cookie. I mean, I just saw her last week when I went to have lunch with Mom, because Mom also works at at the school we all went to. And you know, obviously we keep in touch. I keep in touch with Letty on social media. I don't see her very much anymore because she's moved. But it's funny because like we know what the impact they had on us, but now you also feel the impact that we probably had on them, right? As younger adults, younger kids. And it's just funny because going back, I mean, it's also easy to go back to a program that's just known for success and achievement. I'm not sure if we weren't known for state champions and being like the top dogs when it came to that sport, do you think you'd go back? Because I know friends that have gone back to play football, which was not exactly state champion level, but do you think you'd still go back?
I think so. Like, well, first off, I'm a homebody. Like, clearly I went to Freddie Ford, and then I went to the Norine for 4 years. Like, I didn't go far, and then here I am still living. I live about 0.6 miles away from my sister, and then maybe like 2 miles away from Mom and Dad. So it's like I'm just a homebody. And I really enjoyed South Caldwell. Like, I had a great time there. I helped with their JV program, and I learned a lot under Coach Rising, who was there. And so that was a different aspect, being at that type of school, because it was a 4A school. It was huge. And softball and baseball are driven there. Like, they are very known for that. So it was just cool. Honestly, I'm glad I got to experience that first before just jumping straight into Ford. But I feel like, you know, like you said, the reputation of volleyball in the like Mountain View community is Freddie Ford, and it puts a lot of pressure. Now, honestly, that I've gotten a little bit of success there. It's been a different change, just of expectations, I guess. And that's life too. I feel like you'd be super successful at something, and then that's your standard now. And it's hard making the adjustment of, well, what if we fail? Like, how do we respond? So it's definitely, I feel like, made me grow, honestly, as a person and just as a mother in life, because that's how life is. Like, you're going to fail, and how do you respond? Especially, I think we all figure that out with our kids. Like, when they fail, like, their mind just screams. So what do you do?
She's two. My 11-year-old still screams, you know. It's funny too, because it's going to be like this full circle moment for the area that we grew up and played in, and then like the expectation, because like apparently we raise them a little differently because they come through there as volleyball players, right? It's funny because down here where I live, while the school that the girls will go to is pretty decent at volleyball, soccer is what they're known for. And both my children play soccer. And so somehow we've gravitated toward this school that's known for soccer and competes at like a state championship level consistently in the playoffs. So kind of going back to when we were athletes, I mean, like, what did Salem, Meredith, what did we get? What went through our minds when we were playing sports, practicing, like training? Why were we athletes? I guess would be the question.
I mean, I know for me, well, I had a different mentality than y'all had.
And that's great. That's what we want to hear about. You still play.
And if, oh, I mean, yeah, I was there. I mean, I think it was like part of our upbringing too. Like that was one of the reasons why I was there. I mean, it was just kind of like a general expectation. We played sports in some capacity since we were like 5 at maybe even younger. So it was, I mean, that was just like part of what we did, you know, it was just sports was always part of our lives. And then just naturally, you know, going into high school, like, yeah, you're just going to play a sport, at least one. And I don't know, that just seemed to be like our parents' expectation. And it was just kind of already naturally part of our routine. So it just was like the thing to do. Plus, I mean, and you can talk about this. I mean, I know that today, like society has changed and like sports aren't necessarily the thing, but if you wanted to be cool in school, like you had to play a sport, I feel like, right? Is that not how it was?
I mean, Meredith still works in the schools, so she'll know. But I
No,
guess
I don't think it's
I
like
didn't
that
really.
now.
I do think, okay, yes, I do think we were brought up playing sports. Like we were always doing the same thing, Megan. I'm sure we did softball and volleyball. I did basketball for a hot minute. And
You also cheered as a child.
yeah, we don't need to bring that up. We don't need to talk about that.
I'll bring it up.
Oh my God. Anyways, that was 1 year.
Cheered, never cheered.
But I think, yeah, it was, I don't know if it was an expectation, but like you said, your mindset was a little different
Yeah.
than mine. But now, okay, I'll talk about the society or like schooling and stuff like that. I don't know if it's like to be cool. Like, I don't know if it's necessarily to be cool. I really think now sports in general is a lot about like the socialization and just being with your friends a lot of times. Because there are some, I mean, I feel like there's not as many, I'll say this, I don't think there's as many multi-sport athletes per se. I mean, yes, we have some and they're great, you know, but I just feel like honestly, when we were growing up, everyone played like at least 2 sports.
2, yeah. Some played 3, like all 3 seasons.
Yeah. It's a lot of kids would rather work or they have like at home responsibilities. So there's a lot of that, like, hey, I'd rather work and make some money, which I mean, in these conditions, like a lot of these companies, like they are paying good money for these high school age
kids.
But it's tough to get that crowd to like, hey, you're super athletic and do well in this sport. Like, why don't you help our program, you know, play another sport? And they're just like, well, I'd rather do this. So it's a tough like bridge, I guess, of trying to get some of them, you know, to play multiple sports. But I feel like that's a question I get asked a lot, honestly, at school sometimes of like, hey, would you want your volleyball girls to play other sports and club? And it's also like, yeah, I absolutely think they should be multi-sport athletes just because I think it helps you in different aspects. You, for one, being around other people, being coached by someone else. I think that's always great to be learning from a different coach, or they might have a different idea, or the team bonding that they do, or the team morale. I think that's always great. And then, I mean, yeah, I am a promoter of club sports. I just think, you know, if you're trying to make yourself better, if you want to hopefully get to that next level, I mean, club sports are always a good idea, but I hope I don't, you know, push that too much. Because a lot of the volleyball players do play club sports or club volleyball, but I just think in general, for any athlete, you know, doing whatever it takes to make yourself better. I mean, I think I'm always going to be like a promoter of that. But I think for just like high school, it's I don't know. A lot of my like I just have to use the volleyball team for example. Like all of them are friends. Like they're friends outside of the sport. So like now that they get to play together at a sport they love and they're friends, like it's just a great like social atmosphere for them too.
Yeah, I've never actually thought about it. Like I've reflected on this time of my life quite a bit lately, just because when we were cleaning out the basement, all the softball and volleyball memorabilia was coming through my consolidation. But when I was growing up, sports weren't actually an expectation, but it was definitely something my mom put me in just so like I would be doing something. Because my mom wasn't an athlete by any means, but I was also kind of like raised as a single mom parent for a long time, and I was also a latchkey kid. So I thought it was kind of a safe space for me more than anything, but also it was kind of my ticket out of town from a very young age, like a very young age. Even in middle school, I was like, this is my ticket out of town. And
I remember you used to say that all the time. Like, this is
yeah,
how I'm gonna get out of here.
yeah. And it truly was. And like, obviously I've grown wiser and more mature and, one day hope to return back to town, like eventually. But, I think that I was just super determined and it was a path to somewhere else, but also because I'm just naturally like disciplined and I don't know why. I don't know. Maybe because I always had to do it myself kind of thing. But it was my safe space. It was my ticket out of town. But also because I enjoyed movement, and lots of therapy now as an adult lets me know that like actual physical movement and like going against resistance and air and things like that consistently like is a form of therapy for me. Who knows, that's some woo-woo stuff. But um coming back to that, I think there's just some kids, and I think some of your best athletes come from adversity too, right? Because that's what they know, and so that's kind of my perspective growing up through that. But now looking back, our girls play club sports, but they also play rec sports, and they're going to play school sports because one of them's going into middle school, and all of their coaches are promoting multi sports, which I really, really appreciate and value as well. It just happens that the multi sports that my kids like are none of the sports I played. So I haven't been able to coach them. And I've just been a spectator other than like training purposes. So I agree, because they say other things, not just what you said as far as like the socialization, but also it's good for their mobility. It prevents injury. And so like you shouldn't like commit 100%, 110% to one sport. And because that's also going to increase the rate of burnout over time if they're all in on one sport and playing it year round nonstop with something else. So that's kind of the outlook from a parent with a kid playing multi-sports that also includes club. Right now what's going on. So, and we see that some kids, they put all their eggs in one basket, and it's like, you and I both know, Meredith, collegiate sports aren't like, it's not just a easy path in. Not everybody gets a ticket to go. So
Yeah.
whether it's D1, D2, D3, there's a lot of athletes out there that are just as good, if not better than you, that could take your spot at any point.
Yeah, that's and it's when you get there, I remember the first couple months when I got to school, I just wanted to be done. Like I remember calling and just like, I don't want to do this, because it's like a job. And not saying that I wasn't ready for a job, but at 18, when you
Had
get
you even had a job at that point?
18, 19, you have your schedule, you get up at this time, you go work out. And I didn't like to work out. I feel like I've just been blessed, honestly, with some good volleyball talent, and I was not ready for the weight room type of thing. So just doing that change, I was like, I don't like this. This is awful. 2 days,
The discipline part.
Yep. And then I guess just being coached, you get coached at a college level, it's just different. And
It is.
but the first 2 weeks, I was like, I got this. Like, I found some good friends. My roommate she was really great. And we were both, obviously we were both freshmen, and, we made it. And then once games started, that's when I was like, all right, let's go. Like, this is what I'm here for. So it was really cool. But also our friend Jordan, we grew up with her. She was our childhood, like one of our childhood best friends. She was my sister's age, 2 years older than me.
She's like a year older than me. And I mean, you could have, I mean, when we were in elementary school, you may have guessed that we were like cousins or sister. Like she went with us everywhere. Like we were always together. We rode the bus together. Like we were just always together.
so I got to play, I was a freshman at the high school and she was a senior. And then she ended up going to LR and then I went to LR. So she was a senior while I was a freshman. So just having her there, I think was a huge comfort for me. But I think it goes back to like facing adversity that you talked about. I'm not saying these children now haven't faced it, but when they do face it right now, I don't think they know how to handle it as well as honestly how we were brought up.
I didn't handle it well.
Stuff like that. Well, they're not. Well, maybe we all aren't handling it well still. I don't know. Any type I just it's tough. Like adversity is just one of those things that it's hard to overcome. And I feel like that's another reason why some students may not play sports
Mm.
or I don't know, they don't have the confidence. They don't have the confidence maybe.
Is it,
Or they're not given confidence. I don't know.
or do you think that like they're just not used to like being pushed?
And that's where I found like a fine line because I feel like we all played for a coach that pushed us like, oh my God, in a hole almost like, oh my God.
No, I was in a hole.
So I feel like that helped us. But that's where I feel like maybe it's a generational change. I know that I cannot coach like she did.
Yeah.
Because I'll lose them. Now, I've had some players that I can get into them, but they're like, all right, coach, watch this, or like, I got you. But then others will go in a corner. So it's a hard divide. And then again, I feel like that's parenting. Like
It is because I push my kids, I think.
right. And then how are they going to respond? And then again, me and Salem have 2-year-olds, so almost a 3-year-old sort of, and they react differently. So it's, and then you got to get on the same page with your husband about how you're going to handle some things. So I don't know. It's just it's funny just how it's all different. Like I'm coaching my daughter at home and I'm also coaching these high school students, like high school age kids. Like I'm a mom, I feel like to both. And that's where I find the joy in what I'm doing because it's 2 different levels.
Well, I think you said something really important, like it breeds confidence. And that's one of the things it does create. I'm pretty sure that's what they were designed for, is to help increase and improve confidence in children and people and adults and humans, right? Like, I mean, I think if anything, even going from growing up to high school to being a collegiate athlete coming out, you were a lot more confident in what you were getting ready to go do anyway, because you achieved this thing over here that not everybody does. And that's just a whole different ball game. I mean, literally, when you're going into like careers and things like that, right? So I think confidence is a big one that sports helps with. And it's funny because you're sitting here saying like some of these kids will go in a hole. They're probably not multi-sport athletes, meaning they don't have that diversity of adversity. So their confidence isn't as high as some of these other ones who are either going through adversity personally or experiencing the diversity of sports. So I think it's just interesting. Like, I thrived off people pushing me. I don't know why. But I do push my kids, but I also can't push them the same way that I like to be pushed. My oldest tries to tell me I don't know what I'm talking about. So constantly when it comes to sports, and I'm like, listen, at the core foundation, athletes are the same. So
Right.
but my youngest, it pushes her. Like she likes it. It clicks for her. She motivates. So she's wired a little bit more like me. And my oldest is wired a little bit more like my husband. And so it's just interesting. It's fun, but it's definitely interesting. It's definitely a personality thing. So
Yeah. Well, then also just at the high school level, it's hard because some of them will come talk to me in like at school and stuff. And I'm like, I got to make sure I'm not friends with them. Like, like some of them have great personalities. I'm like, okay, you're cool. Like, you're really fun, but it's also like, okay, I'm your coach right now, and, so that's a little hard, but also when it comes down to like, I'm always going to be their biggest fan. I'm always going to support them. But what's hard, honestly, coaching is like, I don't know what happens when they get on their phone and I don't know what happens when they get home. Like that's what I always tell them on the bus. Like the worst thing you can do is just get on your phone because they're probably talking about that play that happened, or she did this, she did that, or their parents are saying something. And that's what's hard is because just what happens outside of when they get home or when the game's over or something like that. But
yeah, all the white noise
yeah,
in the
that's hard.
background. Yeah, I mean, we were also lucky enough to come up when phones were just like happening and social media wasn't quite fully popping off yet. And, we didn't have all of this outside chatter coming
Yeah.
in. Yeah, I have to fight that with my daughter too. It's like, you're not getting a phone anytime soon. She's like, but everyone has one. I'm like, no, it's the worst possible thing.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean,
let's talk about our kids. Salem, do you plan on expecting yours to get into sports? I
Yeah,
mean,
he's real.
Justin
He's
played sports too. Justin played sports.
Yes, yes. And I think there for a little while, he might have even been a multi-sport athlete. He played baseball.
yeah, and then he played soccer.
He was
Yeah.
big in soccer.
soccer.
Soccer was his thing. And Harrison is very athletic. So I could see him easily being a multi-sport athlete. Or just in general playing sports. And so we're
Yeah.
gonna start soccer in the fall.
As I say, he's coming up on that age group,
I
right?
didn't
He's
know
like,
that.
he's getting ready to be those little sucker feet running around.
Oh my
I mean,
God.
he's really great at kicking,
Yeah.
and he'll kick if you hold a football up like a punter, he will kick it. Um, and so and he can run and he can follow the ball. And so he's pretty coordinated, I think, for his age. So I mean, we'll be playing, and we have a good friend who coaches soccer for like a co-ed, like three-year-old team at the Y. So that's what we'll be doing this fall, and we'll see how it goes.
Oh my God, I didn't even know that.
Well,
Yeah,
so you had a different experience as an athlete and a different mindset. And I mean, obviously your husband was an athlete, but and he's athletic, but why are y'all wanting him to do sports as a parent? Why are you
well,
wanting
I mean, okay, so yes, I have a way different outlook on sports. Like I did it for the social aspect, I think.
Mm,
Okay. It's like ultimately, like when you come down to it, when I'm listening to you guys talk about it, like I wasn't necessarily like a driven athlete. Oh, I love to compete. Like that just wasn't me. Like I was athletic enough to like hang in there, I think, but I wasn't necessarily as talented. I'm definitely not as talented as Meredith, like naturally. So when it comes to athletics, I have
Other things, absolutely.
I have other talents, right? And so, but I was athletic enough to like play the sport, right? So, um, all my friends played sports. I mean, Megan, we were like best friends.
yeah. It's a
How
middle
could I
school
not
hormone. You were
play
like
the
my
sport
best
with
friend.
you? Like that's where you were. How was I going to hang out with you?
I lived with you half the time. I mean, essentially.
Well, there was that too, but you know what I mean. So like all my friends played sports in some capacity. And my other good friend Thea, she was big in softball. Like so naturally, we played softball together. But I mean, I just wasn't like a super driven competitor, and I wasn't necessarily super driven to like train or do practice. And I just remember like volleyball practice killed me. Like I thought I was dying.
Well, she tried to.
I know, but I melted under that pressure. Like I just didn't, I could not like, I couldn't get up the guts to just like push through it. Like it was really difficult. But then when I look back on all of that, like after I graduated, I became like the most in shape in my entire life. And I looked back on all the stuff that Letty made us do and how hard she pushed us and how I like crumbled under that pressure. And I took that and I was like, what is wrong with you? You can do this. And so then I pushed myself as if Letty was there, like pushing me to get in shape and like get fit. And so that was like the most in shape I'd ever been. And I drew from those experiences. Like, even though I didn't handle it great in the moment, like I still, like all of that still had an impression on me and I still learned from it. But
Yeah.
I had to pull from it later in life. I couldn't handle it in the moment. So I think that's interesting. But I think like all the things that you learn from sports, like the discipline and the responsibility and the commitment and like all of those things are important qualities to have that I don't think I would have gotten anywhere else.
Yeah. That's a really good point. I agree with that. I think you nailed it. Commitment, discipline, responsibility. Because I mean, you have to show it for practice, especially when you're part of a successful program. Like there are no sick days. I mean, even as a mom, there's no sick days, right? Like you don't get sick days as a mom, so it trains you for that. But you don't get sick days as a high level athlete or a high performing athlete. You tend to also be sick less if we're being real honest. I mean, because you're trained at a different level. You also don't let your body feel as weak at times. I mean, there are moments where you're like, shit, I am broken. Like those college preseasons, you feel broken, but commitment, discipline, responsibility, teamwork, I think is a big one too, and just some natural leadership skills for sure.
I don't know. I just think it's just wild. You know, we're talking about it right now, and I just always think about like these, like I just think of my team in general. We just like I feel like we took it all for granted a little bit. Like I would love to go back with the mentality I have now. Not in just sport, well, a lot in sports, because I feel like we all could have pushed ourselves in a different way, and I could have maybe went a different avenue or, you know, done this. But like just in life, like if I thought about how I did now, I would love to go back to high school and like not necessarily do it over because I had a great time, but like just have this mentality that we all have like grown into a little bit. We would change a lot of different things. And that's one of the things I feel like, you know, teenagers don't really understand right now, because it's just different. Like
why would they? We did.
In 10 more years, we might say the same thing, like, oh, I wish I could go back, you know, a little bit. But yeah, it's just a different mentality. But I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I know for me personally, like as a kid, you're stubborn and immature and like you're just going to take stuff for granted, period, no matter like what day and age this is. I mean, whether we're talking about kids today or us, you know, back in the day, you know,
Yeah.
we're just stubborn and immature and, you know, doing the best we could with the tools we had. And, you know, just, I'm sure Letty had the same conversation that we're having right now.
Yeah. What is it? Something about it's wasted on the young. What's wasted on the young? The good times, the physical health, something. So
I don't know. But yeah, I mean, just to kind of like bring it all together, yes, I had a different perspective, but I do think that sports played a very key role like in my adolescence and like as a teenager. And so I think for my son, like sports is just going to be like part of what we do. I mean, clearly I'm not going to force him, but if we commit to something, we're going to see it through. He's going to try whatever he wants to try, but he's got to pick one at least.
So Harrison is playing one sport for sure. For reasons that are going to install things in his character that adults need, which I totally agree with. I think it's really funny because I in short, kind of kick myself now, but like when our girls were young, I wanted them to try everything. And I think it's a great thing, right? So like that was my perspective on our girls playing sports is I wanted them to try all types of sports. I mean, not even just they've tried volleyball. I mean, they're going to be in camp with Meredith again this summer. Faye Ryan is starting to show interest in that sport. And I'm like, yes, just latch onto that a little bit because she has that season open and it's really nice. You know, we wanted them to try T-ball, hated it. So we moved on from it and that's okay. Basketball, they pickleball is a big thing right now. We play at the rec center together as a family. You know, obviously they play soccer. They've latched onto that. Faye Ryan plays basketball pretty consistently. So she plans on playing that through school. But I'd love for them to try tennis. Faye Ryan likes golf. So we'll kind of see where all those go. But I really wanted them to try multiple avenues depending on their interest in it, right? Because I don't have the same expectation of them as I did me as far as like, this is how you're going to get through school is playing sports, which is kind of what I expected of myself, not necessarily my family. And at one point, my mom was kind of like, hey, you know, play some sports so you can at least get a college education, but you're going to college no matter what kind of thing. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at as far as our expectation. I also know burnout's a real thing and I've seen it. I even watch parents around me where it's like, we're all in on this one sport. We play it every single day. And I'm like, I don't love that because, you know, once you become a collegiate athlete, and Meredith, you can speak to this too. It's kind of like burnout is real because it's a job. It's a full-time job. And we all know as adults, even in careers that we love, burnout happens. There's just seasons and phases of it. And so maybe it's training you for that aspect of life. I don't know. But I do think at this age it's too soon. Like there is such a thing as too soon. And I still have the mindset of an athlete. And I think it is because, like, I've had those experiences, but I also just want to try so many different things. Like, I'm really into biking now, even though I hated biking growing up, but it's like it's a form of movement and athleticism that I can tackle and isn't as hard on my ankles that are a lot older than me. Um, So I think that's where it comes from, teaching the girls to just try different things, because they're each going to teach you something different too. Solo sports, team sports. So that's kind of our perspective on it. We're not taking it too seriously, but if they're in it to win it. Because, they've lost and losing's not fun. And it does teach them that, like, you do have to work harder. Talent gets ate by hard work all day long. Like, you may have, both our girls are incredibly naturally talented. Like our youngest even does jujitsu, and she's exceptional at it, which is insane. And that's a whole different world of sport, honestly. But once you're in it, you're committed, and you have to stay disciplined, and you have to be, if you want to be good, you got to outwork the people around you. You can't just be naturally good. So, that's kind of our goal, is just keeping them in things and trying different things and learning those pieces of character that you need along the way to survive in life. So
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess I didn't even bring that part up, or didn't really think about that. But yeah, like the whole concept of like actually winning, and what that feels like, and then losing and what that feels like, and having to deal with all of the, the emotions and the things tied to those, I think is an important part of playing sports too. I mean, I think like there for a little while, organized sports were getting a bad rap, especially for like younger kids, because it's like everybody wins, or like all the trophies and stuff like that. But I think there still is a clear winner and a clear loser, and kids know who won and who lost.
yeah.
Like, shame on the adults that thought that was a good idea. But I mean, there are winners and there are losers, and that's just how it goes. And you have to deal with that, no matter if we're playing a sport or we're talking about, landing a big sales pitch or something, so at work. So I think that's another very important part of playing organized sports. And I think I'm saying organized sports here on purpose, because like I think it's one thing to be like a naturally athletic family and just like play sports like in your spare time, and like have that be a part of like your normal activities as a family. Like you were talking about playing pickleball.
Yeah.
But I think that's very important, but I also think playing an organized sport is important. And that's really what we are talking about here today, is like organized sports.
Yeah. I mean, they have to learn how to work together with a group of people who are different than them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I just remember my first days of playing sports with a bunch of boys. Like I played sports with boys growing up until 3rd, 4th grade. So for years. And some of those guys are the guys that I literally grew up with from diapers. And obviously boys are built different than girls. Like obviously there's the co-ed when you're little, and then there's the co-ed when you're big. And we don't necessarily put our girls in co-ed sports at a higher age, because we also don't think that that's fair. Boys shouldn't have to play soft. Girls shouldn't have to like get hurt. And so like there's a clear difference for us there, but we also don't believe in participation awards either. And I think that I might be a controversial person among the group in that, because we don't accept them. We also don't give them. So, yeah, it's interesting. I want my kids to at least, they've definitely got a different life and growing up than I did. But I still want them to have that grit that comes with some of that stuff. So, but yeah.
Just the teaching of winning and losing. It's tough. Especially like just the way you handle it. I think as an adult, like losing's not fun for an adult either. But it sure does bring you down a couple notches when you've had, I don't know, just prior experience, just some success. It humbles you real quick, and it's like, okay, how are you going to respond? Because they're all watching you now. So I don't know, it's a fun challenge, I think, to be a coach in that aspect, of how do you respond as a person, as a coach, as a leader, mentor, when you do lose. And I think that makes you honestly just tackle life a little differently too, because you are going to fail in some aspect on some things. And it's a key, I don't know, it's a key thing of life that I think young adults have got to learn how to, and some still don't handle it well, but I don't know, I think that's one of the things that helped us. The feeling of losing, the feeling of winning. You know, you're on that high for a little bit when you do win, but you got to bring it back down. You got to compete again. Because it does end at some point. You know, like I said, we've all would love to go back. I'd love to play in like a for real game. Playing at the adult level just isn't the same as that competitiveness of like a high school match or college match or anything like that, but it's still fun.
Yeah, it is fun. And there is, like you said, there's a difference in teaching them of failing and then failing forward, right? Like there's always like, oh, you stop at failing, and it's like, no, giving them the tools to fail forward so that when they get back up, they practice harder. And I think that's where some of those really hard drills that we felt like we were about to die in, like the pit.
Well, what's funny is I do those drills. Like
Yeah.
everything, all the drills that we learned from Letty, and then on to when I was with Coach Markland at Lenore Ryan, like I do all of that, everything. The girls hate it, but I'm like, you know what? No, let's go. Like we do like circuits, we do it all, and
I've literally considered starting. I mean, I work out in circuits now. Like those are my workouts. And it's just so funny. I'm like, mid-30s, and I tell the girls all the time, I'm like, we're going to start doing circuits to just train your endurance.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think about the pit all the time. I don't know if you remember the pit, but I remember it in college, and we would do it in our basement gym. And I mean, because I was a DS, so she would go even harder on me, and she would hit the ball at me, and I wouldn't hit it, and I'd fall, and I'd be like, fuck. And then she'd be like, no, get back up. You got to get back up. And she would be just talking through you throughout the drill. She's like, when you fell, you have to get back up. You don't just get to lay on the ground. And it'd be like, it felt like 45 minutes, and it was probably 5.
Yeah.
But that's what life feels like. There's these sprints in life that feel like that. I mean, even in careers. And it's just like,
get up,
hit the next one.
So I have a question for you, Megan. Your girls, they both play soccer.
Yeah.
Is one of them more naturally gifted than the other?
Ooh, that's a hard one. When it comes to soccer, no. What's really funny is my oldest is just naturally gifted. It's ridiculous. Like, and I know a lot of people say that about their kids, but like she's naturally talented in athletics in general. So like the other day she was playing, I mean, cornhole's, I don't know that it's really a sport, but she went out there and she kicked my butt in cornhole. It's like her second time ever playing. She's just naturally athletic, so she just gets it. It clicks for her brain. But she doesn't lack the discipline like my younger one. Now, my younger one has some natural athleticism, kind of like me, but she also has that like discipline and determination. Like, for example, we have a tire swing in our backyard, and we were just sitting out there one day, and she got a soccer ball, and she literally sat there for 30 minutes kicking it through the tire hole. No one even told her to. That was just her mental game for herself. And so I see that difference in them, that they've got both natural talent, but I tell my oldest all the time, like, she's going to kick your ass because you don't work as hard as she does. So, I think it depends on the sport too. Like the oldest is good at basketball naturally, but she still needs some discipline and hard work. The younger one is good at jujitsu. That's not necessarily Faye's thing. She's not as like, she doesn't have as much natural rhythm and coordination as Finn. So it just depends on the sport, I think.
Yeah. I wonder so one thing like that does come up, I mean, with us, because clearly we're sisters, is that like sibling rivalry and competition that naturally happens when you're siblings, period, not to mention like when you throw sports into the mix or like even the same sport.
Yeah, I see that a lot between them two out in the backyard because we have a soccer net in the backyard. And it's really funny because you put those two together. I mean, they go at it. And I think it probably makes both of them better in different ways because they have different weaknesses and strengths.
Yeah. Yeah. I think at some point, because Meredith is definitely like way more like naturally gifted when it comes to athleticism than I am. I think at some point, maybe I just gave up. Like, you're just better. But I'm better at other stuff.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Y'all have different abilities. Like
right. No, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Like I was way more like when it came to like school, academics, art, anything creative, like that was definitely more my thing. And I think that's interesting too, because like when it comes to most stuff, like I'm not competitive at all, but I do have to be better at than Meredith at something.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily have to be the sport, but it has to be something.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. We'll see as they grow up because Finn, the younger one, she's more artistic naturally. She's also better at school naturally. So, but Faye's just got she's got moxie, she's got this popular personality and these athleticism. And so it'll be interesting to see them go through school together because I think they have a similar school year apart like you two do, like 3 years, right? Is it 2?
Yeah, we have 2.
Okay, ours are 3 years just because of birthdays, but they were in elementary school together this year. They'll be in high school together for a year. So it'll be interesting to see.
That'll be fun.
As they develop. But what about you, Meredith? What's your expectations or what are you hopeful for your little one? She's only 2, so.
She is only 2. Well, I don't know if you've really been around her much, but Salem has. She likes to eat.
She's a big girl.
So we're going to have to be doing something where she can run, which she thinks she's running now, and it's just a quick walk. So we're working on that. But so my husband, he did not play any sports in high school. He was like the leader of like the crazies or whatever. Kids. He was like more of just, I'm coming to these events. I'm going to be loud. I'm going to cheer, support you. All his friends played. And then I played multiple sports. And so when it comes to like competitiveness between me and my husband, like he kind of just is like, okay, you're going to win. Like, I hate to say this, so I'm not going to talk about it, but I'm a little more athletic. But he's a huge golfer. And honestly, I like to golf too. And so.
And he's tall.
He's super tall. Like 6'2". I mean, he's big guy. He loves sports. I love sports. So, I mean, of course, we're probably just going to see kind of like what she has any interest in. Like right now, she has a little set of golf clubs and she can hit a little ball here and there. But of course, I feel like being a volleyball coach, like I would love for her to play volleyball. Like, I just think that would be so cool to be able to coach her. And, I was a setter. So I'm like, well, you're automatically going to be a setter. Unless you're going to be left-handed, then you're definitely going to be a setter who's left-handed. But I'm hoping she's going to be pretty tall. It's funny because I'm like investing all this in my child. Like, you better be tall, you better be left-handed type of thing. No, but
manifesting.
I think whatever she feels. I know nothing about soccer really. I know nothing about. I mean, I know basketball, but not enough to really coach her. So we're just going to kind of see what happens. I mean, I'm all for it though. Like, it's whenever I usually go watch the volleyball team when the girls who play club. I usually go watch a tournament of theirs, like if I can make it. And I went one Saturday, and I was just sitting in the stands, like just watching them, like as a fan, And I remember on my ride home, I called Nick and I said, whatever Renly decides to play, like I just can't wait to watch her. Like I was getting so excited, like watching my volleyball girls, and they're not even have nothing to do with me really. But it was just like, I can't wait to be like that parent who goes to an event and just is watching their kid. Now, granted, I was like cheering for these girls and it's not my daughter. So I might be a little crazy being probably a crazy yelling mom, but it was just like, that feeling of like one day I hope to be able to watch her do something that she enjoys. And I just hope it's something, whatever that may be. It might be, I don't know, riding horses, or I don't know, what's something crazy.
Riding horses.
I don't know, something.
Swim team.
Something like
swim team.
Yeah, watch her swim. I'm still going to be like there cheering, because, we don't get to do that anymore. So now, we invested in our children, and that's our like competitiveness, like go, 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 I don't know. She's always going to beat Harrison, hopefully.
Oh man.
I'm kidding. Right now, Harrison can run laps around her, so we're a little stuck.
Yeah, it is super fun, just so you know. Like, even in sports you don't even know the rules to. Being their biggest fan is probably, at the end of the day, the biggest reward, right? Is knowing that they're involved in something that you can cheer them on at. And I think that's also just such a huge reward of having kids in sports, is that you get to be their biggest fan and choosing to be their biggest fan versus being like their hardest coach. So just keep that in mind as they get older too, because there's a clear difference, But yeah, I love it. I love seeing my girls thrive. It also drives me a little bit harder because, like I said, I'm still an athlete in my head. So, I get up in the mornings because, like, I want to be able to go play. If they want to go play soccer outside, I'm not good at it, but I want to be able to at least like stick with them, give them some type of challenge in the backyard, or go play pickleball, which is tennis, or go play all these sports with them. But it's funny because lately we've been doing more things because it's summer break now, so I've got this hankering to play some volleyball again. I'm not sure if my ankles can handle it, but I really want to. So
we should get like an outdoor, like 2-man outdoor little game. But I will say we have to be careful. Last time Meredith and I played 2-man outdoor, she tore ACL.
Thank you for bringing that back up.
Maybe we need like 3-on-3. Maybe it's like 3v3 or 5v5.
We were doing good that summer. We were like going to play outdoor.
I know.
This, and then I took Salem, and I like came down on my knee. I'm like, this something just happened. This ain't good.
It was like the first play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that was, not to get into my life story, that was the second time I've tore it. So, anyways, we're not talking about my injuries, and that's a terrible surgery, so don't wish that upon anybody. I was going to say something before we were talking about that. I think, no, I don't know what I was going to say.
Well, I can say that you're cracking me up because I hear you say things that both this sound like dad and mom.
I hope that's a good thing.
The crazy yeller in the stands.
We all know that's going to be me.
And that is mom.
Okay.
And then I don't know, you said, investing all this expectation into your child about the sports. Kind of sounds like that. If
I'm going to do all this, I feel like, or if as a parent you're going to do that, you've got to be able to take the repercussions of one day she's like, Mom, I ain't playing no more. Or I don't want to do this. But I do know that if whatever we, just from seeing it in the high school world now, and honestly the way I feel like we're brought up in the mentality of us, if you're going to start something, we're at least going to finish. Okay. Mm-hmm. You may not like it, but we are not, let's at least just try to make it through the whole season, and then we can reevaluate, take a year off or something like that. That's what's tough now. Back to like just the high school world. And I'm not saying all students or kids are like this, because we have some great students at where I work, good athletes, all this, but you do see some that are like, they don't play for 2 games, so I'm going to quit. Or, we're not winning, so I'm going to go look somewhere else. And it is tough. It's tough, adjusting to that. But that's just how some students operate, and it's just different.
Yeah. Well, man,
it's just tough. I think that's how it works sometimes. We
that's
don't
team sports. One player doesn't make this team. That's for sure. So, well, cool. I think, first of all, yes, we should start playing some volleyball again.
It would be entertaining to say the least. So we can get Jordan.
Yeah, Jordan be down to play anytime.
All right, we got 4 people.
Yeah, now it just needs to be the weekends. I'll come up.
Yeah.
So, great. Well, I think let's recap real quick some things, if you're thinking about your kids in sports or you are an athlete and you have maybe not as athletic kids, but they need to be involved in something, find something that they can fit in, whether it is golf, or like tennis. That's a pretty intense sport too, but I'm trying to think swim team. Like it's so funny what's different down here compared to what was popular where we come from, where y'all live. Like swim team's a big thing down here, and soccer's a big thing, and it's just so interesting. But get them involved in something because it breeds confidence. It teaches them commitment and discipline, responsibility, teamwork, leadership skills, which we need more of in the world. But it's just something to be a part of, and no matter what, you will always walk away more proud than you entered if you play some form of sports, I think.
Yeah.
Or just honestly being involved in anything. Like, you were really involved in art. Like you got to meet like all those people in just like the art world that I have no idea about. So, just getting involved in something, finding a niche for just something, I think will just make a huge difference.
Yeah. Like some sort of outlet.
Yeah.
It's not like,
it doesn't have to be sports. I know we talked a lot about sports, but there's all kinds of different avenues you can go.
Yeah.
To build confidence or something that you're good at.
Community, build your community.
Community.
There's a reason we're sitting here together today. It all started somewhere, and I agree. All right. Well, Salem, Meredith,
Awesome.
That was fun.
that was fun. Let's do it again.
I'm still recording, sorry.
Yeah. We'll have to recap in a couple of, or we can check back in after Harrison's soccer adventure.
Yes.
I can update on how it's going.
Yes, once y'all are actually like in it. And
Yes, once they're actually in it.
I cannot wait to watch him out there. Oh my god.
It's gonna be entertaining to say the least.
Yeah.
But anyway, yes. So maybe we could do a check back in on our sports.
Yeah.
Until next time.
Until next time.
We hope today's episode gave you some inspiration and something new to try. Until next time, friends, you've got this.